of it in old New York.
All right, it's time for Tony Talks. This has been much anticipated by really the countless, really you can't even count how many people have been anticipating the release of this podcast. But, I'm thankful to be recording this. I figured the world needs another jackass on a microphone who is ill-informed, talking about subjects he has no business talking about. And I'm thankful for you listening and hopefully applying everything that I shouldn't be telling you about to your daily lives. No, but in all seriousness, this is Tony Talks. I'm not sure really what the theme will be. I want to talk a little bit about life, about sports, mixed martial arts in particular, anxiety, mental health issues that we've all had to deal with on some level. I like to think about everything on a spectrum. Personally I've had some anxiety issues, but I could talk about that later on, and pretty much going to be using this as an outlet for expression, really being able to express myself. If one person listens, if nobody listens, at least I feel like I'm getting this shit off my chest. And if anybody has any suggestions or anything, please let me know, because I really don't have much of an idea of what I'm doing. So anyway, recently had a transition. Had a good job, good benefits, good salary, the whole nine, and all that shit. But really was having some issues, like I said, with anxiety, and lost my mind a little bit, quit my job, re-enrolled in school to study data science. Whether I become a data scientist or not, that remains to be seen. But, I'm trying to do things that will follow, that I'll be passionate about, because my last job, I was just sitting at a desk, which ironically is something you do in data science a lot, but it seems like it's different. It's like a linear type of thinking. It's objective rather than, subjective, gray area. Everything is gray area when you're sitting down and working for somebody's companies. And, I was just losing my mind, getting the work done in 5 minutes and having to sit there for 8 hours a day. Might seem like a good deal, but mind was just kidding into gears that I don't really have the horsepower to handle, because I just had nothing but my thoughts for half the day, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, and a lot of people are probably going through themselves. But I had the opportunity to start a data science program that I do on weekends, and during the week I just started doing Uber. So quite the 180 from being in a very structured, very regimented environment to pretty much being on my own now and trying to figure everything out on my own. It's on me to get my own hours, make sure I have enough money to pay the rent. Also went through a move. My last living arrangement wasn't really the most ideal, but I got an apartment now with my lady, and she's great and everything, and so this has really seemed to be helping out. I believe it's helping out both of our mental health and just well-being. Well, I guess she could speak on her own behalf, not now, but maybe later on. And it just goes to show that different things work for different people. A lot of people can be motivated by money. A lot of people can be motivated by getting the big job with the big responsibility and the benefits. Not that my job was anything too special, but, it was something that most people would consider to be comfortable and safe. But if there's no passion there, and if you're just going to spin your wheels at your desk all day, maybe the money, the benefits, and all that other stuff will be enough for some people. fortunately for myself, don't have any kids. And it's just me and my girl here now. And I just know that I'll be able to make up the difference every month and still be able to turn the rent out and everything. And it gives me more time to do things that I want to do, like starting a podcast. So when I quit that job, I made a decision and really wrote down 3 things that I wanted to do. Actually, podcast wasn't one of them. Stand-up comedy was. And I'm hoping to be able to get back into that a little bit. Something I did before. This is my second attempt at having... Actually, it's my third attempt at having a podcast. This is the first one I'm doing on my own, though. So really, if it doesn't work out or if it doesn't work in the long run, it's on me. So yeah, so I didn't really even... I have some notes written down here, but I didn't plan to talk about mental health shit so much right from the jump. To scare anybody away. And if anybody, anybody like this... There's countless, you can't count how many dozens of people are getting this word now. But, if somebody has a story they'd like to share, I'm going to probably just run this on Instagram right now. But we'll see what happens in the future. I might set up a Gmail or some shit, some type of email later on, and whatever the future holds, the future holds. So, yeah, like I said, we just moved into an apartment here. Got a lot of... Well, not too much furniture. We were able to buy some shit off of OfferUp. Facebook Marketplace is a great outlet to have or to use if you're gonna buy if you can get furniture for cheap and you don't really have much of a budget to work with, and you don't want to get all new shit. We had a bed, a couch, a TV, and some other stuff, but we were able to get like a dining table, a bench, a desk, which I'm using right now, and a chair for just over $100, and it's all in great shape. Well, the desk is a little shoddy, but I have to fix some things on it. But for the most part, everything's in great shape. It's funny when you're moving with someone and you have both of your stuff together for the first time, because we were living together, my girl and I, previously to moving here, but I had most of my stuff in boxes and kind of like in storage. So we were putting my stuff up, her stuff, and it was nice, but sometimes I feel like you could rub each other the wrong way if you're not, if you try to make a joke and the other one doesn't get it. Like, she had this sign, she had a chef little poster and like an animation, like a cartoon thing, and it said, "What's cooking?" And she asked me, she's like, hey babe, where do you think this should go? And I said, well, I think it look great next to the trash. And he was like, you're not funny, you're an asshole. And I was, oh, I'm just kidding. Come on, no, it'll look great in the kitchen, next to the stove. Where is it supposed to go? It says what's cooking, it should be in the kitchen. She's like, you're not funny though. I know you think you're funny, but you're not. And I'm like, all right, no, I didn't know you were going to be so sensitive about the sign. But yeah, she did. She took offense to that. But other stuff has been going along pretty well. She's been nice, keeping things organized. I feel like I'm a little bit like a caveman myself here, but I'm trying to work on being more domesticated, living with someone, and all that stuff. But it's an adjustment, and that's what this shit is. If you want to make something work with somebody, you got to adjust yourself, and you got to understand they're adjusting themselves too. I don't think she's adjusting herself as much as I'm adjusting myself, but that's another story. Anyway, yeah, so good. We're over here, just north of Dallas, staying up in Farmers Branch, Texas. Coming over from New York last year. Well, we were previously living, in South Dallas, but now we're up in the North area. And last year I came down here from New York. In case you were wondering about that intro, that's why we kind of went with the New York theme and then some Western theme, and we got the cowboy feeling and all that shit. So hopefully that works out for everybody. This is March 5th, Thursday, March 5th. 2020. 2020 vision for March 5th. You know what I'm saying? But you know who doesn't have 2020 vision are the Democrats right now. How about that transition? Because we just had some Super Tuesday. And we got Biden, we got Sanders there. And, you know, just right before I started this, we saw Elizabeth Warren drop out. And she is kind of in line. I think most of her supporters supposedly will fall behind Bernie Sanders there. But, you know, Joe Biden is the guy the Democrats want. They always seem to rig this thing for whoever they want to get. They got Hillary last time and it didn't work out. And now they're forcing Biden down everybody's throats. And it seems like, you know, I'm not a Republican either, but it seems like what they're doing is what they're trying to do anyway is they're lining up everybody that they can. They got Buttigieg, whatever the guy's name was, and the other one, Amy Klobuchar, I don't know her fucking name. And they endorsed Biden the day before Super Tuesday. And it was like, why? Nobody drops out right before a big primary or a big caucus or a big voting day. They'll usually drop out right after. And I think what was spun to them, I don't know what the fuck the offer was, but to have them endorse Biden right before that day because they knew most of their supporters would fall behind Biden, especially with their endorsements. And it's just, you know, it's like the Democrats, so that their big candidates on Super Tuesday was Bloomberg, who's 78, Bernie Sanders, who's 77, and Joe Biden, who's 78. I think they're all 78 or 77 years old. And it's like the groups that they're trying to appeal to win the election and what they've been appeasing to the last 4 years or since Trump's been in office is like they're now giving you the options of the opposite type of group. They have these old white guys age 77 and over that they're trying to present as a face of change. And how are you going to present them as a face of change if it's the same, not that everybody's like this, but if it's the same demographic that you've been saying, older generation that's trying to bring things back to a certain time period, which is what a lot of people said about Trump when he was saying "Make America Great Again," is he was alluding to a certain time period, and now you're you've shut down the true candidates of change, in who I really thought was Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. And if you want to talk about giving people a real contrast to Trump, you would give more of a spotlight to these other candidates that the media portrays and depicts as having no chance to win. And like I said, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, but I did donate to their campaigns just because, you know, you want a female face that has a chance. You want a minority voice. You want a minority face for this party that's supposed to be the voice of the minorities, the voice of the voiceless, which is how they've been presenting themselves. And they're giving us more of the same politically. And it's all bullshit is what it comes down to. Because Biden is the same exact, like there would be very little change from Biden to Trump, that I really believe. His foreign policy would probably be more hawkish than Trump's. He has controversial voting records about civil rights issues from like the fucking 60s or the 70s. This guy's been around forever. This guy is the bane of politics in general. Forget about left or right. He's been there for so long. These guys have been there for so long. Well, with the exception of Bloomberg hasn't been in politically involved for so long, but a billionaire businessman he's not even, he was an independent in New York. And Bernie Sanders is an independent. And Bernie Sanders is somebody, at least I would like to see get the nomination, because he, at least, you could trust what he's saying is what he actually believes. And I think principle stands for something, even if I'm not going to agree with everything the guy says. At least that guy has some principle. With Trump, he gotta have. I can't imagine a debate between Biden and Trump. I would watch it, but it's just gonna be like two old rambling white dudes that are gonna be yelling nonsense, "Get off my lawn," across the way to each other, without having any real core discussion. And it's gonna be personal, it's gonna be sloppy, it's gonna be a fucking disgrace. It's gonna be the worst. It might be worse than Hillary and Trump. Biden and Trump might be worse than that. And I think they should have, Trump's gonna be the young, vibrant candidate in the election at 73 years old. And I think we need real options. And part of me is hopeful it's not gonna happen. But if you're going to start a third party, two faces like Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard, who are two people, by the way, I don't know about everybody else. I don't think that they went across the aisle and spoke to people on the right, down the middle, and on the left, but they spoke to right-wing, right-wing influencers. They spoke to people down the middle. And that's what you need for if you're going to win a general election. And what the common thing I heard is that they're not electable. Well, it turns out, and a lot of people that told me that were Elizabeth Warren supporters or were Buttigieg supporters, however you pronounce the guy's name. And it turns out that they weren't electable either. You know why? Because they didn't get elected. This whole idea that a candidate has to be electable is just made up. What makes somebody electable is you voting for them and them getting elected. This whole electability thing, you need to be able to appeal to the most people. So if your one hang up about somebody is that they're not electable, why aren't they electable? Because you won't vote for them? If you vote for them, they will be electable. That's just the media spinning things. That's just the media giving us more of the same. And I'm going to have Joe Biden. Well, hopefully Bernie Sanders still pulls it off, because I think then we'll actually have a real debate between him and Trump, and we'll have somebody who has been saying the same thing for years. Not that that's always a good thing, but at least you could trust the guy. What he believes is what he says, and that needs to count for something. And that's part of the reason, or one of the main reasons I love that Ron Paul so much. So yeah, that's the political thing. I had to talk about politics a little bit because I feel like there's never enough word being said about the bullshit and how both parties are kind of, when it comes down to it, they answer to the same leader, and that's the military-industrial complex, because they would talk all this shit about Trump, but then they'll vote for all his defense bills, all his spending bills. So you got one puppeteer behind the curtain controlling both fucking puppets, and that's what both the parties are. Aside from that, coronavirus is going on. I don't have anything written down, but I know it's been on a lot of people's minds, is the coronavirus. And, hopefully it works out. I really don't have much else to say, but hopefully it gets contained. And I'm willing to bet a lot of it is media manipulation again, fear-mongering. Most of the people that have died from the coronavirus have been over 70 years old. So let's hope none of the Democratic presidential candidates get it. So on a personal note, I started doing, when I started having some of these issues, as I take a sip of water, I want to do things that I said I want to do stand-up comedy earlier. Something else was to compete or participate in some way in a combat sport. So I started doing jiu-jitsu a few weeks ago, and I got sick recently. I'm starting to feel a little bit better today. Today's the first day I'm kind of speaking close to my normal voice, and that's why, the podcast, I was supposed to record one prior to today. But, because I've been sick, I haven't been able to record, and I haven't been able to go to jiu-jitsu. But I've been thinking about it pretty much constantly since I've been sick and how much I'm looking forward to getting back to it. And it's a 10th planet jiu-jitsu, so everybody there believes the world is flat, which is interesting. I'm just kidding. They don't actually believe the world is flat. Well, I don't think they do anyway. Well, who knows? Maybe the world is flat. What the fuck do we know? I only know because they've told me that the world is round. I never saw for myself my first-hand knowledge. I've just been told by people I assume are smarter than me about how the way things are, about how the way the world is, and about how the political system is, which we, as we just recapped, is pretty fucked up. So, I'm looking forward to feeling better. I'm hoping that I'll be feeling better enough tonight that I'll go tomorrow morning. I'm planning on doing it 3 times a week for the first few weeks, and then picking it up more and more. And that's part of the beauty about being an Uber driver right now and going to school on the weekends, is that I have more time to do some shit that I really want to do. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do. I want to be able to do comedy, podcast, and now I'm doing jiu-jitsu or combat sport. We'll see what happens with it. I really would like to compete in some type of tournament or some type of competition and see where I stand at some point. But I got a long way to go. I know. I just started and I got sick immediately and really couldn't fucking go until hopefully tomorrow. Which, speaking of combat sports, that leads me into our rundown, MMA, UFC rundown. And I want to talk a little bit about last weekend's UFC events. We had Joseph Benavidez against Figueroa. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to call him Fig. And, it was a knockout. A lot of people are saying that Fig, he'll be facing, they'll probably move on, or it's really disaster, because if you don't know, he missed weight and he ended up, knocking out Joseph Benavidez, who, this was his 3rd title shot, I believe. His first 2 came against the best flyweight of all time, Demetrius Johnson, and the first one was a split decision loss before he got knocked out in the second fight. So he's really the biggest name in this division, and it kind of seemed like that's where, if you want the title to go somewhere, you would want to go to him because he's the most marketable. So Figs misses weight by 2.5 pounds, comes in at 127.5. 125 was the weight limit, and he gets the win, which means Joseph Benavidez doesn't get the title, and now we have a vacant flyweight championship in the UFC. And I thought about this. Well, I want to acknowledge one more thing too, because a lot of people are saying, well, it sucks for Figs because if he was able to make the weight, he'd be the flyweight champion right now. But you don't know that. You don't know how those extra 2.5 pounds, if he put his body through it and gone through that 7th circle of hell, how his body would respond. Instead, he started rehydrating 2.5 pounds earlier than what Benavidez did. And if you're cutting weight, and not that I'm too experienced in this, but I did wrestle a little bit in high school, the worst pounds to cut are always the last pounds. The hardest pound is the last pound. And I don't think you could say he would be the champion if he just made weight, because he had an advantage going into the fight in that he didn't have to go down and put his body through what Benavidez put his body through. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I think Benavidez, a lot of things could have happened had Figs made weight. But, bottom line is right now, they're in a situation. I think what I wrote down an idea. What should happen is I think you should have a flyweight tournament because it's a vacant title right now. They're kind of like up in the air about it. Get any 8 flyweights, put the top 8 or 8 of the top 10, 8 ranked guys, whatever. Put them in a tournament. Build up these guys as characters. Put background stories to each of them. Have them 3 months apart fight. Create a storyline, create dialogue, do backstories on the 8 fighters that you choose, create some personalities in the division, and then have them eventually fight it out. And then at least at the end of it, you'll have some more names, you'll have some more likability, you'll have some more familiarity with the division and with these guys, because the division's fun to watch. That was a good fight last week with Benavidez and Fig. That was a good fight. And I thought it was main event worthy. I thought it was high level MMA, and a lot of people are saying that they don't want to see the lighter weight classes, and that's why they might just get rid of the flyweight division as a whole. And I think that's a huge mistake, because those guys are extremely talented, and there's nothing wrong with having more belts right now. They have so many cards. Every week it feels like, with the exception of like 4 weeks throughout the year, there's a fucking UFC on. Why not have the flyweight championship? Why get rid of the flyweight championship? When I saw those guys fought their hearts out, and they look like, aside from their size, they look as skilled as anybody else that you would watch in the UFC. So why get rid of that division? There's such a huge talent pool, and I think they just need to keep building it up. Likewise, what they're starting to do now with the featherweight division for the women. So, hopefully they're able to do that. Hopefully they don't get rid of the division. I think they should kind of create a tournament and really hype it up. And it's up to them to build it up, though, because there was really no hype behind this fight, aside from like one promo here and there. But show the personalities, show these guys' backgrounds, show what they go through. Go watch them train, get to know these guys, and then you'll have marketable people. You'll have marketable fighters. And you could do it on ESPN Plus. They could even do something on Fight Pass, because I know that. Well, I don't even know. They're probably not allowed to do it on Fight Pass, but you could create stories, and you could have the backstories even filmed on Fight Pass or presented on Fight Pass, and then have the fights on ESPN Plus. And I think that'll, at the end of it, you have them fight for the belt, and you do like a feature with you could have a feature with the flyweights. You could have a number one contender match be the co-main event to the flyweight championship main event. And if something happens where somebody's not making weight in the main event, you bump up one of the other guys to fight in the main event. That this way you ensure that the title is fought for, and somebody does have the title. It's not a vacant title. I also saw Poirier is coming back. He's going to fight Dan the Hangman Hooker. That is an exciting fight. I think that's May in San Diego. If Hangman is able to pull that off, he is right in the middle of the conversations to be fighting for the title next. That division is so loaded, but I do think Poirier is going to get it done. I did think Paul Felder got the nod over Hangman. I'm not going to be somebody that's going to talk X's and O's. I have no problem with any decision that was made, but it just looked like Felder was getting a little bit of the upper hand, like he was landing more clean shots and was coming on stronger, and had more gas in the tank at the end. But I think what that's going to show us, what that's really going to lead to, because Hangman, he didn't call out Poirier at the end of his fight. He called out Justin Gaethje. He said he wanted to highlight Justin Gaethje. So I think what this is really setting up now is Conor McGregor's next fight. I think that there's something in the works for Conor and Gaethje. Most likely, it'll probably be in July during International Fight Week, which I think is July 11th. And I think they're going to have Conor and Gaethje be the main event on that card. I know that they said that they're looking to do Usman and Masvidal on that card as the main event, but I think Dana just said Conor wants to stay active. He might not be out until the fall, which is what I think Dana was pushing for, and Conor said he wants to be active, and I think it's with Hangman now fighting Poirier. They did have a little Twitter back and forth, but the fact he called out Gaethje and he ended up with the Poirier fight, which is a huge fight for him, and a huge fight for Poirier. This is going to be his first action back since the loss to Khabib, and I'm interested to see how that turns out. But I think what's going to shut up, it's really setting up. What that's showing us now is that Conor's next fight is going to be against Gaethje, because otherwise, why wouldn't they put Gaethje against Hooker if that's who Hooker initially called out and who initially wanted? So that should be exciting. I think they'll probably move Masvidal versus Usman to a different card, or maybe those guys probably, no, you can't have them as the co-main event. They should have a title fight on that card as the co-main event, but I think those two guys are too big, and there's pay-per-views right after that you could put them on because they're too big to be a co-main event. They need to be a main event. So drink some more water. And so I'm not right now. It's Thursday, and I'll be getting ready for the weekend soon here. But the only so big plans this weekend. Not really big plans, but we have Yoel Romero and Israel Adesanya. The only thing that could fuck up my weekend is Yoel Romero not making weight because that's a huge fight. I don't want to, if it seems like Yoel Romero is a fucking silver medalist in the Olympics in wrestling, and he never wrestles because he fucking has nuclear bombs for fucking hands. But if we're gonna learn about Israel Adesanya, if he could really handle a high level wrestler, he had Derek Brunson. He didn't get taken down. He had good takedown defense, but Yoel Romero is another level of beast. So we'll see what happens. If I think I don't want to call anything. If Romero wins, that'd be great for him. He'd be 42. He'd be the youngest. I mean, definitely not the youngest. He'd be the oldest first-time champion in UFC history, because Randy Couture, I believe, is the oldest UFC champion in history, but that was his second time becoming a champion. This would be Yoel Romero's first time getting a championship, and a lot of people were making issues about his weight. Remember when he fought Paulo Costa last year, who Izzy would be fighting had he not had gotten hurt. Romero came in at 184.5 for that fight. And previously, he missed weight against Robert Whittaker for the title, but he came in at 185.2, and that was the Illinois Commission pulled him off stopped him from cutting weight. He was 0.2 pounds off. And so he probably could have made weight for that one. And they talk about his fight against Luke Rockhold as well. It came in at 187, I think. But I think what a lot of people forget is Rockhold was supposed to fight Whittaker, but Whittaker got hurt, and so they put the Romero versus Rockhold fight for the middleweight, for the interim belt, and Romero was a late replacement for Rockhold. So, with the exception of his first fight against Whittaker, this will be the first time that this will be the first time he has a shot for the full title, because the first fight against Whittaker was for the interim, but this will be his first shot at the real title, and he's 42, and I think he's not going to leave anything in the gas tank. And just looking at how they're interacting with everybody this week, I think Yoel is just something different about him. We'll see what happens though, because Izzy's on a borderline of becoming superstar, Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, really being able to go beyond MMA circles and really cross over into popular culture, because he's really been taken off, and because of the way he speaks, the way he finishes, because if you're going to be a superstar, you have to be able to speak a certain way and perform a certain way. That's something that McGregor did. That's something that Ronda Rousey did for the longest time. And it's something that Izzy's on the cusp of doing. And if he finishes Yoel Romero, then it's going to be hard to stop that momentum. That's a lot of momentum. And then their co-main event, you got Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Wally Zhang. Good fight. I'm curious to see how Joanna does, because she's been through it countless times. I feel like every other fight she has is in a title fight. Since she lost to Rose, she fought again for the title. To Rose, she fought her twice. I think she had one fight, and I think there was who did she fight against? Joanna fought against. Let me look this up. Because she had a big fight against Michelle Watterson last, but that's not who I'm thinking of right now. She had Tisha Torres, and I think Tisha Torres fought Wally Zhang as well before Zhang had fought for the title in China. Yeah, so that's their common opponent. They both lost via decision, but if I remember correctly, Wally Zhang was able to take her down pretty handily and just kind of like, that girl's like a tank, just kind of like bowled her over. And Joanna's was more point. She kind of like, it was more like I think she was trying to take, Torres was trying to take Joanna down. I don't know. I'm not prepared to be talking about this right now, but whatever. It should be a fun fight. Like that, those are 115 pound. This goes back to the men's flyweight division as well. We're excited about this 115 pound strawweight fight. We could be excited about 125 pound flyweight fights. So hopefully we get more belts, not less belts, and we build up the divisions, not take the divisions away. And that's pretty much going to be everything that I want to talk about right now. Hopefully my voice turned out okay. Hopefully this microphone was clear. Hopefully the countless people that are following Tony Talks 8 on Instagram were able to listen to this. If not, oh well, go fuck yourself. But if you did listen, don't go fuck yourself. That's only for the people that didn't listen. So maybe I said that to air right now. Nobody heard it. Whatever. It doesn't matter anyway. I'm appreciative to be given to be able to do this, and I hope we're able. Hopefully, I'll keep doing these twice a week, talking about personal story, a little bit of politics, right? Especially in this fucking election year. And of course, MMA, UFC. I watch every week, and I wanted to get my thoughts out and put it out there into the world for a while, and hopefully I was able to at least offer a little bit of insight on some shit. Nothing technical, but just a little bit about what I think is going to happen as far as these stories go. Hopefully I didn't scare anybody off when I talked about my existential crisis earlier, and hopefully this crisis gets turned into opportunity for me, and I'm thankful to have the opportunity to speak to whoever the hell was listening to this. This is just another guy on a microphone talking, influencing people. Hopefully I'm not influencing anybody. Hopefully you're just listening and maybe laughing or whatever. I don't fucking know. Whatever you get out of it, you get out of it. I got something out of it just by being able to put this out there. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you next times. And if you didn't listen, once again, go fuck yourself. All right.
New